Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone. Today, we're going to be diving into something pretty unique. It's called Lisboa Azul. And from what we can tell, it seems to be an album, or at least a concept album that blends Portuguese fado and Brazilian bossa nova.
A very intriguing concept.
Yeah, and the source material for this deep dive is interesting, too. It's an article that's written as if it's a Google Deep Dive podcast episode.
Ah, so it's a deep dive into a deep dive then.
Exactly. A little meta, right.
It is.
So, yeah, we'll see how this goes.
Well, where should we start?
Well, I think we should just jump right into the music itself first. Can you give us a little background on Fado and Bossa Nova? Like, for people who might not be familiar, what are the key characteristics of each genre?
Sure. Fado, which has its roots in Portuguese folk music, is really known for its raw emotionality. It often expresses themes of loss, fate, and that uniquely Portuguese concept of saudade, which we'll probably need to talk more about later on.
Oh, definitely. Saudade is so central to Portuguese culture.
Right.
But yeah, so Fado is like the heart and soul of Portugal's musical tradition.
Absolutely.
And then you have Bossa Nova, which has that very distinct Brazilian vibe. It's all about those smooth, sophisticated melodies and really intricate harmonies.
Right. It's a very different feel from Fado, but that's what's so interesting about this Lisboa Azul project. It's supposedly bringing these two worlds together, creating a kind of what some are calling Fado Nova.
Fado Nova, that's catchy. So like taking the emotional depth of Fado and then weaving it into the laid-back grooves of Bossa Nova.
Exactly. It's a fascinating idea, this genre blending.
It is. The article actually quotes Herbie Hancock, who said, and this is a direct quote, "Jazz has borrowed from other genres of music and also has lent itself to other genres of music." So this kind of like musical cross-pollination, it's not a new thing, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Musical innovation often comes from this kind of cross-pollination of ideas and styles.
And in this case, with Lisboa Azul, it's not just musical, right? It's also cultural, because we're talking about the fusion of Portuguese and Brazilian influences.
That's a very good point, and it's particularly interesting given their shared history. Portugal colonized Brazil back in the 16th century, so there's been this ongoing cultural exchange between the two countries ever since.
Right. So there's a lot to unpack here, not just in terms of the music, but also the cultural context. And the article actually highlights a song called Saudade Atlântica, which means Atlantic longing in English, as a good entry point into this world.
And it's a brilliant choice because this song seems to really encapsulate the essence of Fado Nova. It has both the melancholy of Fado and the kind of hopeful yearning of Bossa Nova. There's actually a line in the song that reads, "Só quem sabe o que se passa entre o vento e o mar," which translates to "only those who know what happens between the wind and the sea."
Whoa. That's pretty evocative, isn't it?
It is. It's a beautiful image that evokes the power and the unpredictability of the ocean and, maybe mirroring the complex emotions of saudade.
Yeah. I'm starting to see how they're weaving these different threads together.
It's very clever.
So how about the music itself? Like, how do they actually achieve this fusion on a technical level?
That's a great question. Well, one key element is the Portuguese guitar, which has a very distinctive, almost mournful sound because of its use of microtones. It's often used in fado to create a sense of longing and melancholy.
Right. And how does that blend with the bossa nova elements?
Well, that's where you might hear the nylon string guitar come in, which is more typical of bossa nova. It creates a softer, a warmer texture.
Oh, I see. So it's a contrast, but also a complement.
Exactly. And then you might have percussion adding a subtle Brazilian rhythm while the vocals, retain that fado-esque intensity. It's really all about finding a balance between those two worlds.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
You know what? The article actually provides this track-by-track rundown of the supposed album, and even just the titles alone, they're super evocative.
Yeah. It's like they're painting a sonic picture of Lisbon and its surrounding areas. They've got Lisboa ao entardecer, which means Lisbon at dusk, o segredo do azulejo, which means the secret of the tile, and Noites de Sintra, which means nights of Sintra.
Ooh. The secret of the tile sounds especially intriguing. What's the story behind that one?
Well, in Portugal, azulejos are more than just decoration. They're a form of storytelling, often depicting historical scenes, myths, or, just scenes from everyday life.
So it's like this visual language that's embedded in the architecture.
Exactly. And the fact that there's a song dedicated to their secret suggests that there's a hidden message or story, waiting to be discovered.
Man, I love that. It's like they're inviting us to explore not just the music, but the culture itself. Like it's more than just an album, it's an experience.
Yeah. Precisely. And that brings us back to the meta aspect of all of this. This article, pretending to be a podcast episode, it adds this whole other layer of mystery.
Right. Like, are they hinting at a real project?
Yeah.
Are they just playing with the idea of this, of cultural fusion? I don't know. It's hard to say for sure.
I know.
But they've definitely piqued our interest. What do you say we dive into 𝗧𗔗 Atlantica in a little more detail and see what other secrets we can uncover?
I'm all for it. Let's explore this Atlantic longing together.
Okay, so we're back and ready to unpack 𝗧𗗓 Atlantica a little bit more. Those lyrics, man, they paint such a vivid picture. And I keep coming back to that line about the wind and the sea.
Yeah. It really is a powerful metaphor, connecting the vastness and the unpredictability of the ocean to those complex emotions of 𝗧𗓗.
Right.
And the lyrics, they kind of go on to describe, a ship that's sailing away, a love that endures despite the distance, and this sense of longing that just permeates everything.
That makes me think about Portugal's history. It was such a seafaring nation,
Yes.
right? A place where departures and these homecomings have always been so intertwined with this feeling of saudade.
Absolutely. It's woven into the fabric of their culture, really.
Yeah.
Those who leave, they experience saudade for the home they left behind. And
Yeah.
those who, stay, they feel it for the loved ones who are gone.
Wow. So it's not just about like romantic love or just missing a particular place,
Yeah.
but it's like this deeper longing for connection, for belonging.
Exactly. And that's what makes saudade so universal, really. It taps into this fundamental human experience, this yearning for something that's just out of reach.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
Speaking of yearning, what about that song title, O Segredo do Azulejo? What secrets are these tiles hiding? Any ideas?
Well, we talked about how azulejo is almost like this visual language, right?
Yeah.
Well, this song, it seems to be hinting at a hidden message, a story that's embedded within those colorful tiles.
Intriguing. Does the article give us any clues about what the secret might be?
They don't really reveal too much, but they describe the song as having this hushed, almost conspiratorial tone, with the Portuguese guitar kind of weaving this delicate melody that seems to, almost whisper secrets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That makes me think about how history is often told through fragments, like pieces of a broken mosaic. Maybe this song is kind of like that,
Yeah.
inviting us to piece together the story ourselves, like tile by tile.
I really like that analogy, and it makes me wonder, if each song on Lisboa Azul is like a tile, and the album as a whole creates a larger mosaic representing Portuguese culture and identity.
Yeah, that's a really beautiful way to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got longing, secrets, and a possible mosaic of meaning. What else is this album offering us?
Well, there's this track called Amália e o Jazz, which means Amalia and Jazz, that really caught my eye. It seems to be a tribute to Amália Rodrigues, the iconic fado singer.
Oh, yeah. And they're adding like a jazz element to it. That's pretty bold.
It is. I mean, Amália was known for her powerful vocals and her traditional fado style. By introducing jazz influences, this track seems to be kind of reimagining her sound for a new generation.
It's like taking a classic and giving it like this fresh perspective.
Exactly.
It reminds us that tradition and innovation aren't necessarily, mutually exclusive. They can actually complement each other.
Absolutely. And it speaks to the idea that culture is constantly evolving, absorbing new influences and reinterpreting, the old ones.
Yeah, it's like this constant conversation between the past and the present. The article also mentions a song called Tejo Meu Espelho, which is Tejo My Mirror, which uses the Tagus River as like this central image.
Yes, the Tagus River. It's Lisbon's lifeline, its connection to the world, really. In Portuguese literature and music, it's often used as a symbol of both Portugal's history and its future.
So This song is probably reflecting on those themes of identity, connection, and maybe even the passage of time.
It seems likely. The article describes the song as having this contemplative mood with the Portuguese guitar kind of, reflecting the gentle flow of the river.
Oh, I can almost hear it now.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get too carried away with our interpretations, let's come back to the question that's been hanging over all of this.
Yeah.
Does this album even actually exist?
Right. That's the playful, enigma that this article presents us with.
Yeah.
Is 𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗓 a real album? Is it a work in progress, or is it this purely conceptual creation?
I don't know. It's like they're daring us to go out and find out. But, I have to say, I'm really enjoying this whole, like, treasure hunt. Even if the album itself is just like a figment of someone's imagination, the ideas it presents are just sparking so much curiosity.
I agree. It's a reminder that sometimes the journey is just as important as the destination.
Yeah.
And in this case, the journey is taking us through some pretty fascinating cultural landscapes.
Speaking of landscapes, the article teases descriptions of some other tracks, each with like a different mood and setting. Are you ready to explore some more?
Absolutely. Lead the way.
Wow, what a journey this has been. We've been deep diving into Lisboa Azul, this fusion of fado and bossa nova, trying to untangle those layers of meaning in the lyrics and the song titles. And I gotta say, I'm hooked.
Me too. And the fact that we still don't know if this album actually exists, well, that just makes it even more intriguing, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like this musical riddle wrapped in this cultural mystery. But even if we never actually get to hear it, the ideas it presents, man, they're just so powerful.
I agree. It really speaks to the power of imagination, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the beauty of, what happens when you get this kind of cultural fusion.
Right. Like they're saying, here's this glimpse into a possible world, now go and explore it. It's an invitation, almost.
It is. And whether or not Lisboa Azul exists, in like a physical form, it definitely exists in our minds now. I mean, we've created this whole sonic landscape just based on the clues they've given us.
That's such a good point. It makes you think about how music can create these shared experiences,
Yeah.
even if the source itself is, well, kind of elusive.
Yeah, it's like we're all part of this collective dream, fueled by the descriptions, the musical possibilities.
Totally. Okay, let's talk about some of those other tracks the article teases. There's one, 𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗓𝗪, that's a farewell without leaving, and man, that just sounds so poignant.
Oh, yeah. That title it grabs you, doesn't it? This sense of bittersweet longing, like a goodbye that's unspoken, maybe a farewell to a past that, can't be recaptured.
Maybe it's connecting back to that theme of saudade again, that feeling of missing something or someone, even if they're still present in some way.
It's possible. The article, it describes the song as having this delicate, almost fragile melody, as if it's expressing a farewell that's both painful and necessary.
Wow. Okay, what else?
Well, there's a track called Alfama, which, as you know, is this historic district in Lisbon, known for its kind of narrow, winding streets and those traditional fado houses.
Oh, yeah. Alfama, it's like the heart and soul of fado, right?
It is. It's where the genre originated, and it's still the place where you can really experience these authentic fado performances.
So this song, it's probably trying to capture the essence of that neighborhood, its history, its music.
That seems likely. The article describes it as having this raw, almost gritty sound, reflecting the soulfulness and the authenticity of fado, in its purest form.
Man, I would love to experience that firsthand.
Oh, it's something else.
Okay, and then there's Noias de Sintra, or Nights of Sintra, which takes us out of Lisbon and into those mystical hills that surround the city.
Ah, Sintra. It's a place of enchantment, really, with those fairy tale palaces, the lush gardens, the misty forests, like the perfect setting for a song that blends fado's melancholic beauty with, that dreamy atmosphere of bossa nova.
Yeah. The article describes the song as having this like lush, almost cinematic sound, transporting you to that magical world.
It's amazing how they're using music to create these sonic postcards, these little glimpses into the different moods and landscapes of Portugal.
It is. Well, as we wrap up our deep dive into Lisboa Azul, I think it's safe to say we're left with more questions than answers. Does this album actually exist? Will we ever get to hear these songs like in their entirety? Who knows?
That's the beauty of it. But I think the real takeaway here is that power of imagination and the beauty of this kind of cultural fusion.
It's like a reminder that there are still uncharted territories in music,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes the most rewarding journeys are the ones that, lead us to these unexpected destinations.
Right. And who knows, maybe this conversation will inspire someone to create the real Lisboa Azul, to
Yeah.
actually, bring this fusion to life.
I would love to hear that. But even if it stays a concept, it's sparked our curiosity and given us, a taste of what's possible when musical worlds collide.
Exactly.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep listening, and just keep your ears open for those unexpected fusions that might just change the way you hear the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those curious minds engaged.